Come blast off in my time machine. Third eye feeling like an Visine. Blast off, blast off, blast off, blast off. Come blast off in my time machine. Third eye feeling like an Visine. Blast off, blast off, blast off, blast off.
Hello. This is Ryan, the original outlaw of the airwaves, here to blast off with you on another episode of Hero Paranormal Podcast, where we check out the hyper-anomalous esoteric research that our organization thrives on. And in such, we check out the heroes of those fields: ufology, cryptozoology, secret societies, the cultural fringe. Anything within those parameters is not off limits to us, and we will do our best to bring you the best of the best. And today is no less. We have a great show ahead of you. We have the one, the only, Thiago Luiz Ticchetti. He is, he's done it all. He is the author of many texts in many magazines, as well as many books, which he has contributed to the UFO field. He is considered by the Brazilian UFO community as the greatest expert on extraterrestrial and UFOs typology, as well as UFO crashes, reports of encounters between unidentified flying objects, and military as well as civilians. And this includes pilots. Today, he counts in his database more than 200 reports, all which are very dedicatedly analyzed and investigated as well as researched. Thiago is also the first and only Brazilian researcher to have articles published by the British magazine UFO Matrix. He is currently a columnist for UFO Truth magazine, and he continues to be at the forefront of important UFO cases in Brasilia, such as the Guara case, the Samambaia case, and the UFO probe of the banned TV team. In addition, he has investigated classic cases of ufology, such as the Papuda case, the Paranoia Dam case, and Ticchetti is considered basically the best of the best, which is like pretty much who we want to talk to. This area is riddled in ufology cases, and many of them are unfathomable. We have everything from flying Volkswagen Beetles. We have another case which includes a Cyclops entity almost with like a bubble on his head, and breathing tubes in the Sagrada Familia case. So many cases, it's hard to even keep them separate. But enough of that. Let me make the case for Hero. Go to heroparanormal.com. Check us out on Hero Paranormal at Facebook. Also check out SWR on Facebook, which is our research project, spacewolfresearch.com, and check out the Utah UFO Hunters. Anything that has to do with us, we are about. We'll keep it coming to you. Thiago, wow, your bio reads like something out of a wild science fiction magazine. You are on the forefront of everything. A member and president of the Brazilian Commission of Ufologists, appointed as assistant of the International Director of Mutual UFO Network in Brazil. You're certified in just about everything, and your books, your magazine articles, and the like make that clear and obvious. Thiago, welcome to the Hero Paranormal Podcast. We're so happy to have you on.
Thank you, Ryan. Fine. Thank you for the invitation, and I'm very happy to talk to you and the listeners.
It's excellent. It's great. I like when I read a book that has so many cases that it's not just one case. There's some cases which involve thousands of people, and that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, the book has more than 100 cases, and more than 500 pages and more than 300 of photos and illustrations.
It's pretty impressive. It is. I think it's. I like that it has different kinds of cases too. It has some cases involving abductions, others. I'll get into all that. And I appreciate you making it so amazing with like, I love the pictures of like the flying Volkswagen Beetle and case. And how did you get into ufology? What sparked your interest? And could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I always say that I was born with ufology in my blood. Well, my father was a Brazilian Air Force pilot, and he liked UFO very much. And when I started to read, the two things that I read was comic books, Spider-Man, Avengers, and ufology magazine. And when I was 8 years old, in 1982 in Rio de Janeiro, I saw my first and so far the only time I saw a UFO coming from the sky, and the UFO stopped above a mountain we call Pedra da Gávea in Rio de Janeiro, and the UFO got bigger and brighter, a red bright, and make a movement, a rapid movement, and speed away so fast to the sky that it's impossible to be a plane or a helicopter. In 82 was not, there's no drones in the sky. And well, as a son of a Brazilian Air Force pilot, I was used to live in Air Force bases. I knew what was an airplane, a helicopter, or a balloon, something like that. And what I saw was not none of this.
It was very obviously a UFO that you had seen. It wasn't something that could be misidentified, correct?
Even if today, I still not know what I saw.
You know, that is so wild, because that's so often the case with ufology. You have these cases that defy explanation, and oftentimes people are so caught up on the unidentified part that they think it is something. And that's where we kind of foul ourselves, is putting it into boxes. But what I love about your book is that it has so many different cases that have they're so wild and unique and dynamic, each on their own. I wanted to ask you about a bunch of them. And I'm a big fan of the Flying Disc Press, Philip Mantle, and everything he's got going on as well. That's so neat that you got caught up with those guys. I wanted to ask you about that. How did you get in touch with Philip, and what motivated you to write this book?
Well, I know Philip since a long time ago. When I moved to Brasilia, I was 19 years old. And I became a UFO Magazine Brazil translator. And some of the articles that I translated was wrote by Philip Mantle. And it was like 2001. And I started to chat with Mantle and with Philip. And when it started with the flying press disc, he asked me if I didn't want to write a book about ufology in Brazil. Well, I had more than 600 books of ufology in my house. And I use them to read, of course, and to write articles and make my research. And when I was reading this books, most of it is in English, in Portuguese, and Spanish, I felt that missing a lot of cases from Brazil. Of course, a very, very many cases in Brazil, but there was classic cases that happened in the 50s, 60s, in the 70s. But cases very known in Brazil was unknown in other countries. So I talked to Philip, well, let's do it. And I started to research cases, some very known and others unknown, as I said. And the result was this book of more than 500 pages.
Man, it is so neat. Some of the cases are just so neat. They really stood out to me, and I wanted to ask you about some of them in particular. And among one of those is the one with is it Captain Olanda, and he had 6 men, and I think he was next to a village that had like 2,000 people. Could you tell us a bit about that case?
Yeah, this case is very very famous in world, ufology world. So was Operation Plate, in Portuguese, Operação Prato. It happened in 1977, the end of 1977 to 78. When people from several cities in the north of Brazil, mainly in Colares City, they was afraid to go out of house to stay in the street after 6 o'clock when it gets dark, because they have been attacked. They was attacked by lights, ball of lights, shape of lights, spaceships that shot him a ray of light that hit him under the arms or in the shoulder, females over the breast. And these people got sick, dizzy, and they went to the hospital, and the doctor said that they had a disease because this light took this blood. So the people had anemia from the UFOs, and this case was called the Chupa Chupa case. These lights were named Chupa Chupa, like suck suck.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as we know, one person died because of it. Officially, one people died because of it. But we know that some cases, some deaths, people were not official. But some say that 4 or 5 people died because of it. And then, therefore, sent to this place, to Colares, a crew investigate this light, and they got contact with UFOs and alien beings. Captain Holanda, that back at the time he was captain, he got so close of alien beings, like 5 meters distant of alien beings, and they got more than 100 pictures, more than 25 hours of film of UFO. You know, in my book, we have a lot of photos of this operation, but the films that were so much impressive, so much more impressive than the photos, we're still looking for. We asked for the films to the Brazilian Air Force, and they said that they didn't have it. They lost it or never existed. It's a lie. It's a lie, because Captain Holanda told to A.J. Guevara and Marco Antônio Petit, 2 of the most brilliant Brazilian ufologists, that he made the film. He filmed the object. It was filmed by a professional from the Brazilian Air Force. So this case was amazing. In 1978, Air Force ordered it to shut down the investigation. But we know that the United States government sent people to investigate, agents to investigate the case. And so this phenomenon, the Chupa Chupa phenomenon, the success phenomenon, was researched until 1982. 4 more years. 5 more years, than we thought. So I think that much more material is in, and this material is not in Brazil. This material is in the United States as well.
Yeah, it seems so often with these cases, and it's an amazing case. I'll have to ask you about the name Chupa, because here we have, at least in the Uinta Basin of Utah, where we do a research project, we have these craft we call Chupa, just kind of like what you're saying, kind of connected to sucking or cattle mutilations or malevolent activity. But this case, there were so many witnesses, just so many witnesses in general.
Thousands of people. and many cities got empty because the people leave the town. They left the town. They left the town because afraid. They were sleeping, and no matter if you have a shelter, don't just didn't stop. They were forced throwing their way to hit you. People were so afraid that they leave the town. They left the town.
Amazing. And I love the detail. And as far as paperwork or, these sightings missing and going to the United States, there's a history of this back and forth through intelligences, whether it be the United States, Brazil, with your aerospace division. I love that in your book, you actually have pictures of, great paperwork, top secret papers going back and forth that have been declassified, some that we're not quite sure. Really, really impressive. And I wanted to ask you, gosh, there's so many cases. Is this common with it seems like, at least here in the United States, we talk about the men in black or those government types that show up to these cases, and before you know it, they're swept under the rug. Does this happen as well in Brazil?
Well, we have some cases that we can compare with Men in Black. The most important case that we had it's not Men in Black. They were officials from the army or the air force, but happened in the case of Varginha, when the witnesses received a visit. Some of these men went to the house of the witness and asked him, "Well, if you shut up, we can pay you a amount of money. You just have to shut up, or say that what you saw was nothing. It was not alien." But in this case, like place operation, they don't need it to push people to threat people. Because people was already afraid and treated by the UFOs. So they went there to investigate, and they got hundreds of pages of reports and hundreds of photos and sketches and drawings, and it was something amazing that we're still looking for more details and more documents and more photos and more films.
That is great, because what I noticed about all the cases in your book is that they're very involved with, as you said, if there's not photos, there's usually a sketch or a very detailed account of what had taken place in those areas. And there's another one that really caught my attention was it the Sagrada Familia case with the Cyclops?
Yeah, it's very famous. It's very famous in other countries as well, because this case happened in the 60s and the 50s or 60s, when a group of kids were out of the house washing the dishes of the dinner, and then they saw a huge UFO, sphere UFO, transparent, being seated inside this UFO that was like made of glass. And one of the kids was cleaning the dishes, and from the UFO came a light, and inside this light came a huge being, a giant being, a cyclops being, that got closer to this kid, and it was almost to touch the shoulder of the kid. His brother pushed the kid, and the being seems that he got angry and started to groom something like, and then returned walking like a robot to the light, and then get inside the UFO and then fly away. But this case was so amazing that these kids were interviewed by ufology and was interviewed by police, and they never change their testimony. They always say the same things all the time that were asking of.
I think that's really important with a lot of these cases is they've been looked through and prepared very well. With as far as how you documented them, it was really well and documented, involving small details. And obviously, a lot of times the devil is in the details with these, because I mean, a huge giant being almost touching the kid. It was a really creepy experience for this child.
It is.
And a scary alien, or, you know, reptilian, space alien type looking thing. If I'm not mistaken, it had tubes and almost like I could be wrong, but the drawing was really good. It had almost like something around its head, possibly. Very interesting case.
Yeah, it's like a helmet. It's like a diver helmet. It's a science diving helmet made of glass.
Yeah, that's what it reminded me of. Amazing. And and some of the vivid pictures in your book as well. I wanted to talk about the flying Volkswagen Beetle case, which was hard to ignore. Could you tell us a bit about that case?
This case is amazing. Is an amazing case. Beetle, we call Beetle here in Brazil. We call Fusca. And this case happened in 1967 when Romeu Tavares, he was driving the Beetle with his seventh wife and his daughter. They saw a huge UFO above them, and then they started to get away from this UFO. They didn't know what it was. But suddenly, the UFO stayed over the Beetle and shot some kind of ray. And all around, like he said, all around got freezing. Like if the time was stopped, all around them was freezing, and then the vehicle raised up a few meters from the road. They were so afraid. They can move. After that, they will put the car in the road again, and they start to keep this trip. And when they got home, they saw something like it's not snow, like some dusty in a car that was unexpected. They cannot explain what was there. And after that, they say that Tavares had another encounters with the UFOs and alien beings, but this we don't know if it is true. But this case was amazing, and it was investigated by the police in Brazil.
That is so amazing that there are some really actual investigations where they go through, and they've displayed quite an interest in some of these cases because of the effect it had on the people. And I mean, I can't even imagine seeing a Volkswagen Beetle flowing through the air, but there are cases like that. There is a case that I heard of with a army official here where same thing, where their vehicle got pulled into the air. So this is not...
Yes, there was a case in 78 in Argentina. Happened the same way. Was a rally competition, and the car was taken from the competition and left thousands of kilometers after in another place.
And in your book, UFO Contacts in Brazil, I noticed that you were very careful to not... There wasn't a ton of judgment. It was just really sticking to the facts. Like there was another case, is it Bete and Deborah case? The Deborah case had an interesting case about abduction involving two cousins. That case was strange, very strange.
Yeah, this book had a lot of cases. Brazil is a hot spot of UFO. and we have many cases of many types. This case was Betty and Deborah. They were cousins, and they were abducted at the same time. It happened in 1991. Actually, this started in 1991, and these two cousins was abduction, and they report that the aliens were so strange. They had a brown and gray and green skin with 4 fingers. Just a little, somewhat taller than others, and they had a meter and 37 tall. And these two cousins, Kathy and Deborah, were abductions several times, and the aliens put some implants on them. But when they put implants, they tried to take, because they thought it was like a hurt that they had, so they took the implants off, and they were abducted again, and they put the implants again on them, like to track them. And this two was hypnosis, and put on to hypnosis, and they say the same story. They both said the same story. So it's amazing that, because if they are under hypnosis, they cannot lie, and they cannot say the same thing that others say.
Yeah, it's a fascinating close encounter case, and I think it's important that I was unaware that Brazil it's one of the countries with the highest UFO incidences in the world.
Yeah.
The cases occurring in the country are pretty fascinating. A lot of direct contact, and there's quite a few cases that what I liked is the difference in the actual observers or the people involved with the cases. Everything from country folk to judges to police officers themselves, which the police officers were actually reprimanded, or we kind of got in trouble for admitting they saw things in some of the cases. Yeah. And I wanted to also mention that you have written more than 9 books on this, so I don't want our audience to just stop at UFOs, contacts in Brazil, but there's a lot more books available, and I was wondering if you could tell us about some of your favorite cases, or the ones that you think are most important.
Well, to choose one of the cases is very difficult. It's like a father choosing the sons. Well, I wrote actually 10 books, and the UFO contacts is my 11th book of ufology. I wrote books about UFO and alien typology, and books about UFO cases in general, and books about my articles that were published in UFO magazines in Brazil and England. Well, I really like the plate operation. I do really like it, and I do a case occurred here in Brasilia that was a paranormal doll. This case was so amazing because the UFO was witnessed by civilians, by police officers, by doctors, by firemen, and happened in 1996 in Brasilia. 3 businessmen are finishing the trip. They were in a state, and they're coming to Brasilia. They saw a UFO. First of all, they thought it was a star. They saw this strange star in the sky, but this star started to chase them, and got closer, and they realized that it was not a star. It was a huge UFO in a shape. Some of them say, one of them say that it was shaped like a cross. Others say there was a cylinder. But anyway, this UFO chased them, and at one point in a neighborhood we call here Lago Norte, 96, was very, very remote area. This UFO hovered over the street in the front of the cars, his car, and they were there for 10 seconds, 15 seconds, and they thought, well, we have to cross the road to get away from the UFO. So they accelerated this car and passed under the UFO. But the UFO started chasing them. And they stopped in a place where there was a small police office, and the policemen of the office saw the UFO, but well, I cannot do nothing because I don't know what it is, and so they start their trip again. But at one point, in a door, a door, they stop it, and one of the businessmen called his son. It was a professional photographer, and his son went there and took 36 photos of this UFO. One of the photos is in my book. It's an amazing photo. The object is very bright white, like cylinder, and the sky was so blue and clear that this photo is beautiful. And then when they were there, came two police officers. One of them had a hand camera, and started to film the UFO. And they filmed for 4 or 5 minutes the UFO. And then the UFO accelerated and disappeared. And this officer, the corporal Galdino, his name was Galdino, the corporal Galdino, showed to the whole battalion of the military police Brasilia. And they asked the media, the press, and the ufologists to see the video and investigate. And we did. We investigated. Our conclusion was that was not an airplane, was not a helicopter, was not a balloon. Actually, was a UFO. This case is amazing.
There are so many of them, and it seems like there is a larger scheme of some sort, with these craft. Some are able to, some are seen actually contacting the victims. Others are taking off at rates of speed that the military is blown away by. And if I'm not mistaken, there was a recent case, was it near Sao Paulo, with some fishermen, Fernando Becerra and Wilson da Silva Oliveira, where they were gathering their nets. It just goes to show that the amount of cases that are taking place in Brazil, it's a very active area. Any ideas of what could cause so much activity? And, why is the specific area such a hot spot? Because it seems to be.
Yeah, this case is actually happened in 1995. The two fishermen, Fernando de Bezerra and Wilson da Oliveira. Mm-hmm. It happened in São Vicente, in São Paulo state. They were fishing when they saw a UFO coming toward him, and got so closer to them, and they couldn't move. When they moved, the UFO landed in the grass and left marks on the grass, like square marks. And ufologists from the INFA, Aeronautical Investigations Phenomena in São Paulo, led by Claudio Covo, that already passed away, they made the analysis of the mark in the grass, in the mud, in the grass, and they concluded that to make that mark with that deep and that the type, the object must have had more than 4 tons of hay. 4 tons. It's not something. An object that landed and left marks. This object must be more than 4 tons of hay.
That is so wild.
There's photos as well of the landmarks that's in the book.
That is so wild because it's literally like this tripod, this landing gear in the dirt, leaving a very obvious impression, like something you would expect out of Star Wars or something. It has a very high tech little these tripod feet. I guess it was like a saucer with feet is what it looks like because it left a mark on the earth as well.
Yeah, and the mark was left. See, the object must have more than 4 tons. It's very heavy, very, very heavy. And the left marks we call UFO nest in a graph, like a wing, like if a wing had, separate the graph. It's amazing because this case was amazing.
It is.
And the UFO was flying disc shape, like classic flying disc shape.
Yeah.
Like saltfish.
Yeah, and to have landing gear like that and leave them in the dirt. I mean, I was really blown away by the image of seeing something like that and seeing those feet that like the traditional UFO, like a child would draw with like the little feet coming off, or any of us would think. And it's pretty fascinating, and that's a more recent case, pretty intense. And the fishermen, if I'm not mistaken, their boat's engine actually even stopped when the object passed over.
Yeah, and when curiosity, this fisherman went back to the same place 20 years later, and the place where they UFO landed, it still has not vegetation.
Oh.
There's no grass on it.
Oh my
20 years
gosh.
later.
That's so wild. So neat. Such a neat case. And I just loved it. It really sounds like one of those cases that is not only traditional, but it fits all those boxes of, rectangular support legs, the vegetation being dry, twisted, and flattened in a clockwise direction. Kind of the same things you would see in a crop circle.
Yeah. That's true.
It's really fascinating, and it's fabulous the way that they described it. I think the way the psychological effects on the eyewitnesses, and both of them complaining about eye irritation and diarrhea. I mean, tests. This is some scary stuff, and we find this a lot with people that see these craft. Do you find that there is a common thread in somewhat of medical malfunctions or shorter lifespans after seeing these craft up close and personal? Do people get sick often?
Yeah, we have many cases that people. We have a terrified case that's in my book. That a man that melted after contact with a UFO. We know as case João Prestes Filho, and this case happened in 1945, and João Prestes was walking in the street in his city. It was back in the 40s. There's no electricity in the streets. So he was walking and he saw a UFO in the sky. And we don't know why. Well, he doesn't know why. The UFO shot him a beam of light, and he started to feel dizzy and pain in his arms and his legs. And a few days later, his flesh started to get apart from this bone, from the chest, hands, fingers, legs, and feet until they died. It's like a radiation contamination of radiation when you lost part of your body, like falling blood flesh from his body. But it was 1946. So, and something hit him, a ray of light. It was nothing like a Chernobyl, like a Fukushima, no. It was alien or UFO that shot him, we don't know why, a ray of light, and he died because of it.
It's really scary. It's really a scary case. That really is. So there is some danger and problems with these type of encounters at times, and so it can be very devastating to the victims. Pretty amazing stuff. For our listeners that are interested in getting your past books, your present book and future books, and whatever other projects you're on, Thiago, where do you recommend they find this online, or where can they? What else do you have going on, and where can they find it?
Well, the book UFO Contacts in Brazil is selling on Amazon.com. My other books are in Portuguese. It's not in English, but you can buy it if you can learn Portuguese. It's not an easy language, but
you can try.
You can buy it at ufo.com.br. It's a UFO Magazine Brazil website that published my books. Well, my next project, I'm gonna write a book about UFOs in World War I and II and other conflicts, other wars in the world. And Philip Mantle asked me if I don't want to write a book about UFO and alien typology in English. Well, I still have to think about it because I took 2 years to write this book. Mm-hmm. And when I write a book, I want to do it very well, very, very deeply, and make a deeper research. So who knows what it's going to be.
Well, UFO Contacts in Brazil is a great book. It's got some of the most amazing cases. I couldn't put it down. It was a great read, and I really appreciate it. I appreciate you taking some time today and speaking with us, and I can't wait to keep an eye on what else you have coming, and hope to have you back soon.
I think I wish as well, and I thank you very much for the invitation. And when you would like to speak about UFO in Brazil, just call me.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. UFO Contacts in Brazil, the latest book by Thiago Luiz Ticchetti. Definitely check it out on Amazon. He has got some amazing stuff. There's his list of accomplishments in ufology is so underrated. He's the co-editor of Revista UFO, coordinator as well. He's also on the Comissão Brasileira de Ufólogos, which is like the ufology commission of Brasileira. It's pretty amazing. If you look at his accomplishments, he is beyond a doubt the person most recognized with ufology in Brazil, and it was a pleasure to have him on the podcast. Definitely support him and check out the other stuff he has going on. Can't thank him enough for coming on, and can't thank you enough for listening. Definitely subscribe on YouTube. You can find us at Hero Paranormal. Go to heroparanormal.com if you want to check out other archives. Something else that's important to remember is you can always go to heroparanormal.podbean.com for the easiest available podcast format. in a car, wherever you are, catching a flight, wherever that night happens to take you, it's the easiest way to download the podcast and take it along with you, and it does so quickly as well. We have some pretty amazing guests scheduled for some future upcoming shows, and I just can't wait to get them out there to you guys. So thanks so much for your support. Until the next time, keep your eyes to the skies, feet on the ground, but don't forget to take a look around.
Come blast off in my time machine. Third eye feeling like an Evazine. Blast off, blast off, blast off, blast off. Come blast off in my time machine. Third eye feeling like an Evazine. Blast off, blast off.